Hey, thanks for stopping by. This is AgriNow, a podcast by Tridge. Stay in the now with Tridge's agricultural insights and data. Let's get on to the updates.
Welcome to AgriNow, an agricultural podcast designed to keep you in the now. I'm your host, Bia Shim, and we're joined today by global market analyst Juan Carlos. Blueberries are native to North America, and the country is also the largest producer of blueberries. When it comes to trade, though, the United States has a negative trade balance, meaning that it is a net importer of blueberries. With high production and high imports, the USA has a year-long market for blueberries. However, in the most recent season, which runs from mid-June to the end of August, domestic blueberry production in North America has decreased, affecting prices in the country. So Juan, can you give me the forecast on how much of a decrease the U.S. blueberry industry will experience?
Of course. Well, the most recent data and information that we have is that due to the frost and some hailstorms in California, the production in California, which is the first season or the first state that harvests the blueberry, has decreased. And the Blueberry Commission has pointed out that it will decrease at 15% compared to what was last year. So we are expecting about 50 million tons of blueberry produced instead of 65 million, which are the ones that were projected at the beginning of the season.
So what affected the 15% decrease year over year?
Well, it was mainly unfavorable weather in California. In California, high bush and low bush farms. It's very important to remember that the blueberry production is divided into high bush blueberries, low bush blueberries. There are also the ones that are, for example, in Michigan, which are cultivated blueberries. So California is the leader of high bush blueberries, and Michigan is the leader of the cultivated blueberries. So for high bush blueberries, they do depend a lot on weather. So over the winter, there was too much cold in California, which is not normal. So that was damaging for the crop, for not to flourish in the springtime, on time. So first of all, there were delays. And second of all, there were some damage. So the California harvest season started later than what is expected. And besides starting later, it also had like around 15-20% decrease in volume.
I see. It looks like weather aberrations all around have afflicted this year's blueberry season in the U.S. But I guess the season isn't over yet until the end of August. So are there any signs of recovery in domestic blueberry production in California or in other states?
That's correct. I mean, the good news is that today blueberry production in the U.S. is wide across the nation, and it's produced in different states. And the rest of the states haven't had recorded any damage this season due to weather or due to other issues. So, for example, Oregon, Washington, Georgia, and Michigan are very important states for the blueberry production today. As I've mentioned, Michigan is the leader of cultivated blueberries, and Washington, along with Oregon and along with California, are the three main producing states. So Washington and Oregon and New Jersey as well are going to start harvesting late July. So that produced volume, we're going to start seeing in the market in August. So yes, the production will recover. I mean, it will be less anyhow from comparison from last year, but the volume in the market from the gap that we're seeing today because of the California harvest, it will recover. We're going to start seeing more blueberries in the market due to the production of these states.
I see. Well, what about Canada? I understand the country is also a pretty large producer of blueberries.
Yes, in fact, Canada is the third largest producer of blueberries in the world. On the contrary of the US, Canada still remains, for the most part, a producer of wild berries, meaning high bush and low bush production, instead of also having a large cultivated blueberries production, which it is the case in the US. So Canada has been really affected by the beekeeping crisis that it's seeing all over the world, not just in Canada. But in Canada, the blueberry producers are still very dependent on the beekeeping pollination that the bees take place in the wild bush or in the high bush and low bush for cultivation for blueberries. And this crisis has been aggravated over the years, but this year has entered a new stage where the Ministry of Agriculture in California has declared that most of the farms are 50% short on bees, or some of them have no bees anymore. So this has severely affected the blueberry production in Canada as well.
I see. I'm hearing blueberry shortages all around in North America due to a lack of bees, which play a critical role in blueberry cultivation. So has the blueberry shortage been reflected in prices yet?
Yes, definitely. For example, in the US, normally when the season starts, of course, as any other product, when the season starts, prices goes down because, in the case of blueberries, most of the year you can find blueberries in the US, almost all year round, because they import from Peru, from Chile, from Mexico. But when domestic production comes into place into the market, then what is in the market is the domestic production, so prices normally go down. It wasn't the case this year, so the peak domestic season for blueberries this year in the US has actually started on 62.5% increase from last year when the season started. So last year when the season started, the price of a flat one cup, which is the measure for the US for blueberries, was at $28, and the first week of July it started at $38. So it was a 62% increase from if you compare it from last year. So you can see very clear there that the price has definitely been affected by this shortage. And in Canada, very similar. The price increase from last year was at 44.7%. Last year it started at $10.50, and this year the price started at $15.20 US per kilo. So you can see also that Canada, in terms of prices, was also affected, and the season started with higher prices. This, of course, as I've mentioned, while we go through the whole season of the other states that are producing, prices expected to start having a downturn.
With regards to trade dynamics, since Peru is the largest country the U.S. imports blueberries from, do you think Peruvian blueberry exporters will be able to benefit from the lack of blueberries in the country by perhaps capitalizing on high blueberry market prices in the U.S.?
Well, that's a very interesting question, Bea, because actually, yes, Peru and Chile are the main suppliers for blueberries in the U.S. Peru is actually the first supplier to the U.S. However, Peru and Chile are not in season right now, so they are not able to capitalize. Precisely during June and July, Peru doesn't really export much blueberries to the US because their season starts around August, the harvest season. So their export season starts around August. So if by August still a shortage in the market, they may be able to gain some market there in the US and Canada. However, maybe the country that can benefit the more with this shortage in the US and Canada is probably Mexico, because Mexico has a very similar season to the US and Canada. Although Mexico has been increasing their production substantially in the last years of blueberries, the production in Mexico is still low and still very low to fulfill the US and Canada demand. But yes, we might find out at the end of the year that during June and July, Mexico actually increased their export volume to the US in order to cover this gap, But again, in the Southern Hemisphere, the season starts in around August. So we won't see exports from Peru and Chile increasing until August, September.
I see. So unless there are other factors, prices in the U.S. in particular can remain pretty high until August when blueberries from Peru and Chile make their way to the U.S.
Well, correct. But there's also the domestic production that is coming from the other states that I think it will alleviate prices as well. All the production coming from New Jersey, from Washington, from Michigan, from the cultivated farms, that will alleviate prices. But let us not forget that this year it's also a particular year in terms of rising of agricultural inputs. So the product that is coming from the other states is not going to come at a usual price. It might be a bit more expensive as well. So I think since the start of August, we will see elevated prices. However, maybe not to the similar levels of last year. So I think all through the season, it will remain a bit higher. But with more product coming into the market, it will alleviate a little bit. Yeah.
Thank you for your insight and time today, Juan.
Thanks to you, Pia. Thank you for having me.
If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a review, subscribe, and share AgriNow. Check out tridge.com/intelligence-data/intro for more price analyses and up-to-date insights into the food and agricultural industry.